All right, everybody, welcome. Today is December 6th. Today's our regular Wednesday CalPADS Q&As. My name is Alex Manriquez, and I'm a data analyst at CSIS supporting CalPADS. Driving for us today will be Mr. Paul Higgins. Moving on to announcements. The initial deadline is next week. That is next Friday, December 15th. So you should be at 0 errors now. Ideally, you are already at LEA approval. As a reminder, we only require LEA approval for this initial deadline. SELPA approval is recommended, but all we're looking for right now is at least an LEA approval. And that means you need to have 0 certification errors. The other announcement that we had was that the Fall 2 training announcement was sent out yesterday. And there was a training this morning for Fall 2, but the bulk of the trainings are in January. So if you want to register for those trainings, Fall 2 trainings, you can go into Bridge and register for those. And Paul is showing you how to go to Bridge. So this is our CSIS website, and under CalPADS Learning, and that's how you get to Bridge under LMS, right? In the meantime, between now and January, if you wanted to kind of get a refresher of Fall 2, not much has changed from last year. And so you should be, you can also go to our YouTube channel, which is also available from our CSIS website. And you can look at all our Fall 2 videos from our YouTube channel. Those were all the announcements I had. Martha, Angela, or anybody from CDE?
I don't have anything to say, Alex.
Nothing from me.
Okay. We are going to start then with our questions, starting with Asia Q1. Let's say a student completed a CTE Pathway in 10th grade in May of 2021. CTE complete day is May 2021, so 2020-21 school year. Program record, including completion year, was added afterwards in February of 2022. The student graduated from high school in May 2023. Will this student count as a CTE completer? I'm assuming you're asking.
Go ahead, Alex. Sorry.
I was just I was wondering if they meant if the student was going to be a CTE completer in the 4-year cohort.
Yeah, so that's what I was gonna fill in that information because it wasn't clear to me either. So if the student is considered a completer if they have completed the 300 hours plus the C plus or C minus or better in all 3 of and the courses for the pathway. And it's those 3 courses for that pathway. They are not considered they might be considered a completer like in their 11th or 12th grade year. However, when you are checking your reports, you do have to go back. If they completed in the 11th grade, you have to go back and check that report if you're like sending them out that survey. I hope that answered the question because I couldn't see it.
I would say,
thanks, Nate.
Reading the question, the issue may be that it says program record including completion year was added afterwards in February 2022. Typically, the year that they complete, if it was their 10th grade year, they completed the pathway and the capstone. Even if you're going to add it after the fact, it should be in the 2020-21 year. I don't know if that's just for validation, but it is good practice. And I would expect it to be reflected on the cohort reports if it was added that way, because it pulls ODS data. The fact that you're saying that a student is a completer a year after that they completed the capstone may cause a problem, and I suppose could exclude the student from the cohort report. I'm not sure. because
Innate, isn't there a validation that in order to be to use the flag that you're a completer, that you have to have the capstone in that same year?
but if they're added after the snapshots have finished processing, that
I see.
validation wouldn't catch it. Previously, it might trigger a DD now. I don't
Right.
know, but previously, but we don't train to poor practice. So I would recommend changing that completion, the SCTE record, to correspond with the student course completion record, so that the capstone and that the SCT are in the same academic year.
Yeah. And as a reminder, it's just for the 4-year cohort, the cohort is looking within the 4 years of high school for that student. If they completed at any point during those 4 years, that student would count as a CTE completer. Moving. Oh,
And I would add that I think if you look at the dashboard, it's a mapping guide. It tells you how they factor or how they consider a student a CTE completer as well. So there is that document on CTE's website on the dashboard page.
between all those answers, hopefully we answered that question. Moving on, Naomi, Q1. What are the implications of a school certifying by the initial Fall 1 deadline, December 15th, with the 16.5, 16.16 reports missing services? Several charter schools we work with have large discrepancies between total SPED records on the 16.13, 16.14 reports and the total services on the 16.15 report. So there's missing students on your services report is what I'm reading. Is Brandy or Joe on the, or Joe is?
Yeah, I'm here, Alex.
Brandy's here too. I think she said she was having trouble getting herself off mute. So Marshall, maybe you could help her.
And there's Meredith too.
The bonus today.
We got a trifecta.
Try it again, Brandy, if you like. I think it will work this time.
Yeah, I'm here, but go ahead, Joe. You were going to answer the question.
No, I'd rather actually have you.
Potato.
Can I have my Brandy card here?
You sure you want to use it now?
Yes, please.
So just keep in mind that we did disable the certification data discrepancies related to services, which means that those service reports will not be required to be certified for Fall 1. And we are going to be evaluating whether or not the services reports are going to actually be part of certification, even in end of year 4. We're kind of taking a step back and looking at other ways we can provide service information to your CELPAs without having you actually certify them. So should it be a hindrance in you certifying if there are specific services not in that report? I would say at this point, don't let that be the obstacle, because again, we're revisiting some other ways that we're going to be able to assist your CELPAs in monitoring that you're submitting services on a regular basis without having to just solely rely on the certification reports. So I would say don't let that hold you up.
Moving on, Miguel, Q1. It's good afternoon, data team. I was wondering if there was something that happened over at CSIS FICMAT recently, because my account, as well as several people on the listserv, no longer have access to active accounts anymore. I thought it was just me as an end user error and tried various browsers and even changed my password, but was unsuccessful. When my account was created back in January, it took about a month, literally not exaggerating. And I don't want to miss out on any Fall 2 trainings. I have not heard anything else regarding my account, but the fact that I don't have one anymore, even though I was active for my Fall 1 trainings as well as the ones for Fall 2 and EOY last school year.
I'm assuming they're talking about my FICMAT. What's it called, Angela? My FICMAT?
It's myficmat.com, but I think so people forget either to put the my or the dot between my.ficmat.org. So,
And we're unaware that anything would have happened to your bridge accounts.
I'm actually looking Miguel up right now.
Colleen is saying me too.
Yeah, I saw that on the listserv.
Yeah, too many having the issue, and you guys have been regular users.
I'm not finding Miguel in
Bridge.
In Bridge, yeah. Sorry, spaced out on the name of it. He's not in there.
I'm going to check to see if the whole user account list shrunk, because then we got a big problem.
Oh, I wonder if something happened to that. Yeah, there's manual intervention there. Yeah, Colleen's missing. Yeah, something did happen, Miguel. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Right, so we'll take a look at that. Moving on, Terry from Irvine, Q1. Is there an issue with students who have a valid record for free in the program file, but is not showing up on the 1.18? I've not heard of that issue. I don't think we have an open bug on the 1.18.
What kind of student is it, right? Is it a TK student? Potentially they're not of the right age, so got to know more about it, and probably having the SSA would help us better troubleshoot. And when did they get their valid free reduced program record? What's that start date?
Good point. Okay, Terry, if you can give us more info, and again, we won't be able to go into your data during the Q&A, but you could also submit a ticket and we can look into that. Summer, Q1. When will the monitoring reports be available for Fall 1? I'm missing the parental involvement indicator. I believe these reports are 16.20 and 16.21. So I know one of them is going to be available next Tuesday, the 12th.
21, the detail.
Student detail. Okay. So next Tuesday, Summer, is the earliest that you're going to have that student detail monitoring report.
And Meredith, can you confirm that parental involvement facilitation?
That's what I was just going to look it up. So the 1621 is going to include students that are overdue on their plan review or reevaluation, but it's not necessarily focused on the parental involvement facilitation code. And so we will have that field on the record, but it's only for those that are, it's only for a subset of those student records.
Right. So only those that had annuals, right? Or the
yeah. So review. If the record was held but held late, it'll appear there. Or if and actually that's it, because the meeting information that we will be displaying is usually the pending as of information. But if there is no meeting yet because it's delayed, there will be nothing displaying in that record.
Okay. Eileen, Q1. I need help getting back into my Bridge account. I keep successfully resetting it, but then when I try to log in to register for trainings, I get a message saying, oh snap, I've sent up a help request directly on the CSIS website. So it should all probably be related, right?
Possibly, yeah.
Claudia, Q1. If a parent has not signed an IEP, is it correct to manually add a SWITS record in CALPADS of eligible not participating? If so, would the non-participation reason code be no parental consent received for Part C to B, code 22? And would that special education effective start date be the student's enrollment date or the date of the meeting? We currently have an SCNR 606 error. I think this is in the scenarios document, right?
I'm almost positive that it probably is, but okay. So one really important thing that my team and I have been discussing, in particular today, is what parent signature on an IEP actually means. So just keep in mind that the IDEA law basically says that in order to start providing services, the LEA must obtain informed consent to provide services, right? So informed consent doesn't necessarily mean parent signature. So Claudia, in answer to your question, if what you're saying is that the parent does not agree currently with the IEP, then, and it's an initial. So they've agreed, they've consented to special education and services, but they have not agreed with the offer of FAPE on the meeting date, then yes, we would expect a status of eligible and eligible not participating. And then once the parent actually agreed to the offer of FAPE, then a subsequent status could come up telling us that they were eligible and participating on the date that either the parent received informed or you received informed consent from the parent, or the date that they will start services. Does that sound right, Joe?
Yes, that's exactly correct. Based on our conversation earlier, I do agree with your statement.
Great.
Moving on to Becky, Q1. If a student enrolled and qualified for direct cert at the time of enrollment and the student became eligible after 5 years, can the student fill out an alternative household income data form when eligibility ended? I'm not sure what that means. The student became eligible after 5 years?
It's probably, they're asking about like a CEP school or a Provision 2 school. That's what I'm sort of surmising by what she's asking.
But they qualified at the time of enrollment, and then 5 years later they became eligible. I mean, if you're direct cert, you're eligible.
They should have had a base year in between that 5 years.
So I think it's probably the 4-year cycle. I think that's what they're talking about, but I can't be sure. So Becky, if you want to clarify if that's what you're talking about, because you're either a Provision 2, Provision 3, or a CEP school. And so initially they qualified via direct certification for CEP, and so they reused that status until the next base year. And so the question is, in CalPADS, can I have them fill out an alternative household income information form to determine their eligibility or their CalPADS status? I think the answer is yes, but I will defer to the CalPADS office if they have a differing answer.
Sean?
Sorry, no different answer.
Okay. There you go. Skipping over Linda's autopilot. Mary, Q1. For fall 2, if we report college classes with college codes and all 9 seed and college credit only, code 23, do the courses count towards our college and career indicator? Yes, that is.
Actually, Alex, you might want to let Sean answer that question.
Oh, okay.
What timestamp is that one at, Alex?
304. That's Mary Halter.
Code 23, though, is only for the instructional, what is it, non-standard instructional for CTE courses. You don't use that on the actual college classes that have a college code. So there's 2 types.
Yeah, no, 23 is college credit only.
But the college credit
but you only use that for CTE courses. If it's a college course, there's like 12 college courses, right?
No, Mark, hold on. No, wait, no. Just hold on 1 second. And then let Sean answer the question, then I'll address your issue.
So college credit only courses are not technically being accepted any longer. I know there's been some confusion between SIS vendor guidance and what you're reporting into CalPADS. Currently, our AMART office is correcting that guidance for you all. I believe it was due out yesterday, but I haven't seen it. Brandy, I don't know if you've seen it. If not, then I can refer them over to the dashboard email.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but just know that it is coming from the accountability office. Basically, they're not going to count college credit only, where the students just voluntarily taking courses on their own that are not affiliated with the district towards the CCI anymore.
Okay, that's new.
Yeah, and Martha, related to your question, I believe that you can use 23 or 24 for any course. It's not only limited to CTE.
Okay, I thought we had a validation, but maybe not. So, and I was speaking to, when I call it a college course and the way I interpret what she wrote, the code is like 9020. That's the college credit course for visual arts. And then there's 9120 college credit course for English. I mean, it's kind of duplicative. It's not, because if you use the actual college course 9120.
Right, but this tells you whether or not they're getting dual credit or college credit only.
Oh. And because of what AMART do, it's changed then how they're supposed to use that? Because in the past, you didn't have to.
Not changing. It just means that they're not going to count any courses that are college credit only towards CCI.
Okay.
They're only counting the dual enrollment courses towards the CCI. So if they have an agreement with the school.
Right. We're going to move on to Angelina's Q1. Regarding CTE, is it correct the course can be CTE, 50% or more CTE standards, and have a teacher that does not have a CTE authorization still teach the course with the high quality tagged N?
That's correct. As long as the course has 50% or more of the standards, yes. If the teacher does not have a CTE credential, if you have that LAO, please go ahead and put that in there with the course. It may still flag as a misassignment though, and then you'll just have to correct it with your CalSAS.
So, just to be clear, for CTE courses, unless it's an independent study CTE course, there are no local assignment options for those.
Robin has a question for the group. It says, curiosity question for the audience. Are you approved yet? If not, how many fatal errors do you have? Wondering how other districts are doing. That's at 3:04 timestamp. So chime in here, folks. Rebecca, Q1. Is it possible that in the next upcoming trainings for SPED, if they can be told that once the majority of their data is up in CalPADS, then their primary focus needs to be the fatal errors on whatever submission is the one that we are working on? They need to be reminded where to go to see this. In the past 2 years, I have sent them the errors and they seem to get offended and say they know where to see these. Our CELPA did send them the summary last week, but we are at 97 SPED errors and those get pretty involved in trying to clear them. For those who have stays, they just focus on the routine transactions that come up that need to be sent to CalPADS, and it seems they think this is all they need to do to get the errors to go away.
Yeah,
and then,
I know an issue. This is an issue that I've been seeing with several LEAs who are focusing on input errors that they're receiving on transactions that aren't even effective during the period of Fall 1 certification. So just to all of my special education related folks, I realize that we've told you that you need to send transactions up on a daily basis or on a weekly basis minimally, right? But right now, we are 1 week away from a certification deadline. So therefore, I would not focus on any event. That means any plan reviews, reevaluations, initial evaluations, amendments, exits that occurred after October 4th. Don't focus on those right now. Only focus on data that were effective on census day. So any plan reviews, annuals, reevaluations, amendments, exits that occurred on or prior to census day. Those are the ones that you need to focus on so that you can get your certification errors taken care of.
Alrighty. Moving on, Charisse, Q1. Just wondering if there's a scenario if SPED fatal errors will change to warnings that we can resolve during the amendment window.
We are not planning to do that this year, folks. We are not planning to switch everything over to warnings. So I would strongly urge you to reach out for help if you need it. If you are having trouble resolving those errors, if there are specific issues that your vendors are having that you think CTE needs to be aware of, that we can talk with them. I can tell you we're having a meeting with the vendors on Thursday. So if there are any specific issues that you can point us to, hurdles in getting those data up there, then please just let us know, okay? But for now, what I would do is focus on your fatal certification errors for data that have already been posted for the most part. A lot of you are getting FENR 0606F1 because your plan records are not posted yet, right? Because maybe there's a holdup in your student and special education data system. So if you have those hurdles, please reach out to us. Let us know. We can try and address them with the vendor, but we are not planning on switching everything over to warnings and then making them fatals during the amendment window. So please keep trying to get to LEA approval.
Just a quick plug-in on that SCNR 606, since it's so popular. Nathan created a video on how to resolve that error. So if you go to our user manual and you go to our error list or just type in SCNR, oh, thanks, Paul. Paul's showing us how to get to our user manual, SCNR 606. And on that page, oh yeah, F1, all the way at the bottom, you have a video that you can share with your folks if they're having errors with SCNR 0606.
Hey, Alex.
Oh, yes.
Go ahead and say it again, just in case they didn't hear you.
Okay.
Tell them all about where to find this, okay?
We're going to start all over.
Yeah, it's hard to find sometimes. Go ahead and tell them again so it's easier to find.
Yeah. So when you're in CalPads, if you go over to the left-hand navigation under Help, you have User Manual. And when you click on that, it'll take you to our user manual. You can just use the search box and type in SCNR 0606 or really any other error that you have. And you can select the error that you are looking for. It'll give you the name of the error, description, fields, files that are validated, suggested resolution. And then in some cases, if it's a really heavy hitter, you have videos that our trainers have very graciously created for us. So
they could also click on the actual error number in the certification page and it goes to this one.
That is an easier way. Thank you, Kyron. I forgot about that. Yeah, so certification screen, when you're clicking on the actual error number, it'll take you straight to this page.
And for those of you who didn't detect the sarcasm in Paul's voice, we are getting about 100 tickets a day, and about 50% of those are SCNR 6060. So we are answering that till we're blue in the face. but almost always it's because the plan was not adopted yet at all, or the plan has a start date after Information Day, which is October 4th, 2023.
Moving on, Bavita, Q1. If a student was truant all throughout their enrollment, which crosses census day, student left November 6th, will I receive the fall 2 error that the student had no classes? How do I resolve this error? Yeah, fall 2, you will get CalPADS will be expecting classes for the student if they were primarily enrolled. I mean, the thing is that even if the student wasn't attending class, presumably they would have been enrolled in a class that would have been marking them absent, right?
That's correct, Alex, because if not, they need to account for the truancy while they're doing their investigation.
Moving on to Onseta, Q1. Hello all. Have a student that was expelled and referred to another district, but that district does not have the services the student needs, so he's still enrolled with us, but not attending anywhere as a parent waits to see what our next steps. Student has an active IEP. How do we handle this situation? And do we mark student truant for not attending? Thanks.
Alex, I'm pretty sure this is a ticket.
Okay. So instead, if you want to put in a ticket,
I'm pretty sure it's already a ticket.
Oh, it's already a ticket. Gotcha. So, all right. So we'll let the
it's in the works.
Okay. Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Eileen, I see your Q2. We'll circle back. Sinian, Q1. I am pulling reports for CRDC. Would ODS or snapshot reports be best? New to CalPADS. Huh.
None.
Did you say none?
Yeah, I mean, it's very, very difficult to pull specific CRDC data from CalPADS. And this has been on the CalPADS office radar for a long, long time. It's just not something that they've tackled yet.
Teresa says me too. Tanya says I can't get into Bridge either. All right, so we're looking into that. Albert, Q1. What entities collect information from the December Fall 1 deadline, and what entities collection information after the amendment window for the Fall 1? For Fall 1, the initial deadline in December, that is for your P1 calculations, correct? So it would be the same entity for the initial and the final?
Yes, but I mean, the SPED data are also pulled from the final certification deadline. So we don't pull any of the special education related data from the initial deadline, but we do use data for specific federal reporting and the calculation of some indicators for the annual performance report. That office does use that, but we use the final data in January.
Shelly, Q1. I have to launch an incognito browser to sign into Bridge. If you are signed into the browser with another account, it will not work. My username ends with @my.figmat.org. Okay. Wendy, Q1. Are recordings of previous Q&A sessions available? I don't know how many we have.
Yeah, I'm working on trying to catch up. Hopefully by the end of this week, I'll be caught up to where we are today. Most of the older ones are there. You just have to search for them. And I have that table of contents document that I'll share out. And that one will pull out all the old information all the way back for the past year.
Thanks, Marshall. All right, moving on to Derek. Q1. When a district LEA1 holds a meeting for a student transferring in from another district, LEA2, prior to the LEA1 SENR start date, does LEA1 need to adopt the stay put IEP from LEA2, or is adoption of that record unnecessary? Also, we are anticipating a GER 5 ownership error here at LEA1 since the meeting is prior to our SENR start date. If that occurs, what's the recommended way to resolve if LEA1's meeting was held during the enrollment for LEA2? A secondary enrollment, create a CCE, thank you in advance. Well, the meet record doesn't have GER 5, right? So if the meeting happened outside of the student's enrollment with your district, you can give us the actual date the meeting was held and it won't trigger an error for you. As to the adoption, I don't, Brandy or Joe, you want to take that one?
Well, so anytime a student enrolls into your district, if you've not created an interim 30-day on the date of enrollment, if that comes later, then we do recommend that you adopt the IEP that was in stay put at the time that the student enrolled. And what I mean by stay put is that the student was on an active IEP at the prior district. They came into your district. You haven't created an interim 30-day or held their plan review, annual plan review. So whatever that student came in with is the IEP that is in stay put until you amend it or hold a full IEP meeting. So yes, you should adopt it. You should adopt that plan as of the date they enroll in your district. Now, in cases where you actually implement an interim IEP on the day of enrollment, you can do that. You can submit up an amendment as of the date that they enroll in your school or in your district, and that plan would be effective from the date of enrollment.
And in addition to what you said, Brandy, we actually had that covered as well on the scenarios document. There's a scenarios document link we could probably provide in the chat to actually, give you the the guidance to actually how to submit this and to. You know what we did, because Derek actually is pointing out it's a specific scenario. I know. Thanks for pointing that out, Joe. So Derek, here you've said that they've already held the meeting, right? So you've already established the student's plan that they're going to be on. So no, you would not, in that case, you wouldn't adopt the prior LEA's IEP. You would just submit up a record as of the date of enrollment for either the interim IEP that you developed during the meeting that was held prior to enrollment, or if it was a full plan review, then you would submit up that record as of the date of enrollment. But there is a specific scenario for it.
And Paul has the scenarios matrix up on the screen here. Super, super helpful, folks. If you haven't seen that one, highly recommend for your SPED people. Susanna, Q1, please refresh my memory. A SPED student was found not eligible in 2018. Student was reassessed and found eligible in 2023. Which date would be the special education initial entry date? The original one, right? The student's initial entry date? Or
they were found ineligible. So
oh, right.
Yeah. So if they were found eligible in 2023, it would be the date in 2023 that's their initial entry date. Now, if they had been found eligible prior, and then the student, let's say the parent, I don't know, maybe they left, and then they came back and they were reassessed or something, reevaluated, it would be that initial start date. The same holds true with Part C initial evaluations. Okay, so if they have an initial evaluation for Part C, and then they're evaluated for Part B, the initial entry date is always going to be the earliest date that they started receiving special education services, which in that case would be the Part C. entry date.
Albert, we see your Q2, circling back. Chantel, Q1. This is my first year as LEA admin. I've learned how to give access and permissions. How do I give a bridge account to one of our new employees? And people are chiming in here, and it is
There's a beautiful video that I believe either Nate or Kyron created, and it has a timestamp on it, and it shows you step by step how to be able to request that bridge account.
Thanks, Sean. And there it is. He says bridge. Wonder if it's that one. I'm going to move on for sake of time. We're going on to Kara, Q1. If a student with significant disabilities completes 4 years of high school and is provided with a certificate of completion and then continues enrollment in an adult transition program, what is the correct exit reason code and completion status code for the end of that 4th year of high school where the certificate was provided? E23120?
Yeah, so this has kind of been a point of contention, and Joe, I'm going to ask you to chime in here in a second. So Kara, really historically, since we began collecting these data in CALPADS, and I'm specifically talking about the certificate of completion, there has been a lack of really clear guidance on when LEAs should actually use that completion status code. When should I report a certificate of completion? During the advent of the dashboard alternative school status 1-year grad rate, it became important, right, to report certificates of completion, because for students who took the alternate assessments, those kids could be counted as graduates in that 1-year rate. Well, that rate really doesn't exist anymore. It's more informational on the dashboard, and it's that DAS 1-year rate technically really doesn't exist anymore. So what I would say in this situation, and Joe, the reason I'm asking you to chime in is because for federal reporting purposes, we have to provide counts of students exiting secondary education and special education to the federal government, okay? So in this instance, if you submitted a completion status code of 120 in their initial cohort year, and then the student returned and continued services until they aged out, technically, there's a possibility we could actually report that student more than once as an exiter. And I think the intent is not to do that. Would that be right, Joe?
I can't answer that right now because because by default, we do. I mean, by practice, as you could tell, we're reporting every year. So, like, if you have a 120 right now, and then next year you're gonna have a what exit is it?
E125.
E125, right? Yeah, there is a chance that we'll be double reporting that for each year. So, I mean,
Okay.
it's gonna be separate. I mean, yeah. So it's going to be reported in both years. That's what I'm trying to say.
So right now you have the option, but I can tell you in prior conversations with some of the other management in SPED is that if the student is going to continue on and receive services until they age out, you can issue the certificate of completion, but reporting that to CALPADS is not necessary. Until they actually finish and they exit special education. So in those cases, the other alternative would be to report the student with an E156 exit in every subsequent year that they return.
Yeah,
Okay?
Sorry, go ahead, Brandy.
No, it's okay.
I know the only concern there, because most of those kids, you don't know whether they're going to be returning or not. So I guess, I'm on the side of caution, right? I mean, if you have a certificate of completion, then, I mean, you just have to be transparent about it too. Like, I'm just saying that, when they get that certificate of completion, really, you don't know whether they're going to be returning back as solely for transition services or not.
Right.
So that's the only concern I just want to point out.
Yeah. But if you are aware, right, if you're aware that they're going to be returning for services until they age out, then don't use that code. Use E156, and then you can use a certificate of completion when they finally age out of the program.
Summary CR Q2. We're moving on to Larney's Q1. We have a kindergartner who we discovered has an IEP in preschool 21-22 from another LEA. Then in 22-23, she moved to a private school. Now in 23-24, she is enrolled with us. We discovered her IEP from the other LEA. We contacted the parent and she has forgotten about the IEP and she is no longer interested in pursuing services for her child. All this over the phone call. We sent in SWITS, eligible but not participating, reason withdrawal. We are getting a SWITS 605 F1 missing meet record. Are we required to meet with the parent before we can send a status of eligible but not participating?
So I mean, what I heard was that you contacted the parent; they're no longer interested in pursuing services. So I would request revocation in writing. That's the number one thing. Remember, you need to specifically get parent revocation in writing. They have to provide it to you in writing. So number one, over a phone call, that's probably not good enough. You need to get revocation in writing. If they're not interested, so they're missing a meeting record. So can somebody pull up 605 F1 so I can actually look at the specific trigger, because I don't have it memorized. I'm sorry.
What?
There it does. Where's all these memorized?
Look here.
I don't.
If Brandy forgot the dog's name right about now, I wouldn't mind. Like, it's okay. It's just been that.
Status.
Oh, give me another year. Give me another year, and it'll be in
SWDS.
Yeah.
So this one is triggering for non-participation reason 10 or 12, or if non-participation reason is 21. But it looked like the question is that they put the reason is withdrawal, which is a non-participation reason of 24. So I wouldn't expect that this error would trigger.
Yeah, so we probably have to take a look at the specific student you're talking about, because we would need to look at what you are, the code that you're providing. Because what you're saying is you're listing them as a withdrawal, which is 24, but this should not be triggering for code 24. From what I understand, Meredith is saying.
Correct.
This one is actually supposed to trigger when you have an initial evaluation or a reevaluation, and it's not meeting the specific conditions, right, Meredith? Or eligible or not eligible.
Yeah, the intent is we have some indication that there should have been a meeting because there was an initial evaluation done based on the status that was submitted, but we're missing that meeting record.
So just send in a ticket with the SSID, Arnie.
All right. My AI bot my AI bot has a comment. Says Matt Clark did an excellent job with the Fall 2 training today. Kudos, Matt.
Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, well, the other Alex.
Thank you to both Alexes.
I'll take credit. Let's see, where are we at? Marshall at 3:32 timestamp has a link to a YouTube video, CALPADS certification errors. And just a reminder that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel and you can get notifications whenever there are new videos added.
Yeah, that's the link to all of those errors, the playlist that contains all of those errors, so you can go through really quick and pick those errors up.
Right below that, at 3:33 timestamp, Kyron posted a link to error resolution for Plan 619. Marshall also posted another link for Plan 619. That is a YouTube video. Next, we have Fabiola, Q1. Good afternoon. Since we are not reporting course enrollment or staff assignments for preschool teachers, do we report any data to CalPADS for these teachers? We have 4 who teach SDC preschool. Thank you. The answer is no. No preschool teacher info. At 3:36 timestamp, Marshall posted, is this the consequences? Our spreadsheet of how submissions are used and the consequences of not meeting each submission.
Yes, that's the new version that's just uploaded to the website.
3:40 timestamp, Paul posted a link to that SPED file submission scenario that we had up on the screen a few minutes ago. Right below that at 3:30 timestamp, Angela has the SDNR 606 F1 video. Yadira, Q1. Brandy, I have a student with missing status record. The following student is a DNQ with parent refusing to sign. Would the status for student remain as eligible and participating?
Okay, so the student, it was determined not to be eligible, but the parent is refusing to sign that. So that either that's due to an initial evaluation or a reevaluation. So a student cannot, so I'm not sure, I'm assuming because they're eligible and participating right now, that it's a reevaluation, and upon reevaluation, they were determined to be ineligible. So you cannot remove a student from a placement without parent consent. So if the parent is not consenting, you cannot change their status. So very likely, it's possible that the parent will request an independent evaluation. And then you just kind of have to wait. But for right now, you should leave them as eligible and participating. Does that sound right, Joe?
Yes, that's correct. I mean, if there is a stay put, IEP in place, then you still have to honor that stay put IEP and wait for the IEE or due process,
Okay. Paul at the 3:43 timestamp has a link to that bridge account video. Rebecca, I see your Q2. Angelina, I have noted your Q2 as well. There's a follow-up, but we're going to treat that as a Q2 learning because we do have a few Q2s that I want to make sure we hit. We have 5 minutes. All right, so we're circling back up. We're going to start with Eileen at 3:11.
There was, so Alex, there was one
Yes.
at the very bottom.
Oh.
Yeah, Bobby.
Yes, thank you. Okay, Divya, sorry about that. Q1. We have a student who enrolled with us on September 18th, and the parents didn't let us know the student had an IEP. Only when the CUM was received, the plans were adopted and services provided. The student left on 10/31 before a meeting was held. I'm getting a missing meet record error.
Okay, so I think I talked about this ad nauseum yesterday during the training. But Divya, what's really important is that you understand that even though you weren't aware the student was on an IEP, they actually were. Whether or not you provided services during that period of enrollment between September and October, that's a separate issue. But in this case, the student was actually on an IEP. So the first thing you need to do is you need to adopt the IEP that was in place on the date of enrollment. Okay? So that's as of 9/18, you're adopting the prior LEA's plan. Second thing,
folks, CalPADS provides information that tells you that the student is on an active IEP even before you get the CUE. So I cannot tell you how important it is to utilize that information. Either make sure when kids are enrolling in your districts that your registrars look the student up in CalPADS, look at their special education or students with disability status record to see if they're eligible and participating. If they are, that means they need a record in your IEP system and you need to create one. The second thing you can do is utilize the SSID extract. Utilize that extract. You can pull it every time your CalPADS administrator submits up enrollment. You can, right after, download the SSID extract, and that extract tells you whether or not any of those kids that are enrolled are students with disabilities based on data that we have in CalPADS. You don't have to wait for the CUE, okay? So avoid these errors, because I think the error that you're probably getting is not that you're missing a meeting, but you're missing the plan record. It's probably the SENR 606F1 error.
All right. We are going to circle now back up to 311. Eileen.
Before
yes.
you do that, sorry, Alex. Ethan had a question about Welligent. It's at the 3:30 timestamp. It's response to the video that I posted for Center 6606. It's more for Brandy, I think, or Brandy might have a little bit more information. I wondered if you could read that one.
Sure. Okay, so will the 606 video help Welligent users? I've explained you have to adopt the prior plan and change the date to the student's first day of school many times, but every Welligent user I speak to seems to think this isn't a thing they can do, and instead they end up manually creating or modifying rows on the extracts to achieve the same result. Okay, so just as an FYI, we are working directly with Welligent staff. We have provided them a list of the SSIDs that are generating the SENR 606 F1 errors. I did communicate with Dixon Deutsch as well as Kane Galata. I don't know if Kane is on this call, but did communicate with them that when you're adopting a plan, that plan effective start date has to be the first day of school, or in cases when you're holding a plan review or an initial evaluation, it's when the parent actually signs or provides informed consent to the IEP services. So we did provide them a list of those SSIDs. My understanding is that they are going to try and assist on the back end in Welligent in making those corrections. So Ethan, if you want to reach out to me directly, please feel free to do so.
It is now 4 o'clock and we have 6 Q2s. Do we want to
plow through? Just do it.
Okay. All right. Starting Eileen.
I'm sorry. I should have let Angela answer that question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Angela.
That's okay. I was going to say the same thing, Brandy. Let's keep going.
Eileen's Q2 at 3:11 timestamp says, I have 6 students showing up on the 1.18 as socioeconomically disadvantaged, and I see no reason for it. Not directly served, foster, homeless, EL, migrant. Is this a known issue? They do not show up as socioeconomically disadvantaged in my SIS. All the tickets that I've gotten on this, the students were meeting the criteria, and it was just, you know, something that wasn't automatically noticeable, like the parent ed level, for example. I don't believe EL is an qualifying.
But what 1.18 doesn't collect parent ed level.
Right. I don't think it shows the socioeconomically disadvantaged either. That's on 1.1.
Yeah.
Probably means LCFF eligible is probably what she's trying to say. So that ticket that I've answered a few times is they were directly certified, but they're no longer enrolled with you, so they won't show up on your direct cert report anymore. So check that to see if they have exited your district. Foster, also check the former foster list. So they could have been a foster on information day, but are no longer foster. So those are a couple things to look for, Eileen.
Move on to Albert at 318. Q2. What program records should I prioritize for the December Fall 1 deadline? And what program records can I continue to correct into the amendment window?
All. I'm gonna, what timestamp? My first reaction is all. So if I heard the question correctly, what programs should you prioritize? All of your programs need to be counted for students for that snapshot as of census day, especially if they have or they need a qualifying enrollment for census day and matching program. What program types do you continue to update? Especially if that student has a change in their program type.
So Sean, perhaps because he specifically said the December deadline, we're using that data for LCFF purposes. And so any program that's associated, I mean, yes, all ultimately, but if you had to choose, your NSLP is very important. Homeless is very important. Migrant ed, very important. If you don't have those right, then you might miss out. But then you have till the end of January correct data.
Agreed. Sorry, I didn't hear the December part initially. But yes, agreed.
That's what we're here for, to help you, Sean. Help each other.
Question 2 at 321 timestamp summer says, if the parental involvement will not be included on the Fall 1 report, how would I monitor that? I'm just wondering if that would affect our state performance report. I believe it's state indicator 8. Thank you.
Yeah, Summer, Heather DeFede actually raised this to me in sort of a private message. And I agree that we have to have a discussion about parental involvement and how we can make that available to you, because I do understand that it's part of your performance indicators. So just know that I will be having a conversation with Meredith very, very soon about this to figure out how we're going to get this to you, because it is currently a gap.
Scrolling down to 346 timestamp, Rebecca, Q2. Does it still matter that files we send up have the correct academic year? Meaning if we send an update to last year to close out programs and we forgot to change years in our SIS, when we pulled the data, so it uses the current school year of 23-24 rather than 22-23, will CalPADS now be okay with this? Just wondering, because it happened for CA 181 and the SIS actually used the correct year, possibly because we used last year's dates in the report parameters. However, when I did that thinking it was a change made per CDE, I ran the CA 182 and it used this year, even though I used last year's dates in the report parameter. Just wondering if CalPADS has now made accommodations for that.
So do we know whether or not they've implemented the derivation of the academic year for all file types, or is it just the new special education files?
I believe it's just the new ones.
Yeah, me too.
Got it. Okay.
That means the academic year is still important.
Yes.
On the SPRG.
In all files except the special education files. So in fact, we've urged all your vendors to not submit up an academic year in your MEET, Plan, Serve, and SWDS files, because CalPADS automatically derives the academic year based on the primary dates in those records. So for status, it's the status start date. For Plan, it's Plan effective start date. Serve, it's the Plan effective start date. And for the MEET record, it's the meeting date or pending as of date.
So, but to answer her question more specifically for programs, then it does matter. Is that what I'm hearing, Brandy?
it does matter for all of the other files in, aside from the SPED, but they're going to have to select the correct academic year. Although, I don't know, perhaps Martha or even you could potentially answer this on how those data are used, because really the system doesn't use the academic year for
the reports.
It's using the actual dates in the record. Yep. But my question is the data discrepancy reports. What date do the data discrepancy reports use? Are they using the academic year?
Oh, that functionality is new. I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know, Meredith.
We went through a lot of the data discrepancies to specify based on the record date, not the academic year ID, but I can't speak to the program ones specifically. I'd have to go through and make sure, but I know we tried to reduce the use of the academic year ID unless it was a replacement file type.
Yeah, I think, I don't know the answer to that question. I mean,
sorry, I'm looking as we speak.
But I think ultimately, I mean, any non-SPED file, it does matter still, the academic year.
Yeah. Okay. And so if you're submitting up a record this year, even though the effective dates in the record are from prior year, you're still going to use the current reporting year. Right? So it's 23-24, but they're submitting up a program record that was effective last year. Does that sound right?
Who are you asking, Brandy?
Well, I'm just saying, because she's saying that even though she used last year's date in the report parameter, or she said she ran CA 182 and it used this year, even though I used last year's dates in the report parameter. So, you know what, probably best to just send in a ticket and we can talk about it to figure out the right answer to your question.
Yeah, I'm thinking most of our reports are not going to be running based on the academic year ID in the record itself. So most of the time they're going to be using the report period to figure out the data that were effective during that report period.
All right, I'm going to move on to Angelina's Q2 at 349. Is there a flash out regarding the CCI not counting the college credit, or will there be?
There's not a flash out. The information currently placed out by our assessment unit, from what I understand, is currently correct. The information placed out by the vendors is what is incorrect. However, due to it needing clarification, our assessment unit is placing out clearer guidance and scenarios, because we understood how LEAs could easily not submit the most correct information. Pray that makes sense. And Brandy, please chime in.
Yeah, no, that's correct. And I believe what they said they were going to do was, remember the dashboard is supposed to be out by the 15th of this month, and they were going to release the new dashboard technical guide. And I believe that the clarified guidance is going to be in the updated dashboard technical guide.
And then the last Q2 is a follow-up from Larnie. Says, we also have it in writing, and this, I believe, is to the parent not accepting. and says that they are no longer interested in pursuing the services. We'll follow up on the ticket. Okay. All right. So
yeah. So just again, if you're getting an error on that for a withdrawal status, it might yeah. So just send us a ticket. Let's take a look at the record.
All right, that is it. If I missed anybody, let me know, but I think we got everybody's questions. Thanks for the whole team for helping out. We'll
And
see
we are still researching that bridge issue, so we haven't forgotten about you folks.
All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week.